Thank you to all my channel members, including my fan appreciation level members and my contributor level members, for helping support the YouTube channel. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my ranking of my top favorite science fiction book series. I'm going to be talking about my top 10 with 2 honorable mentions, favorite science fiction book series. I'm going to be talking only about series, so if it is just a standalone, it's not going to be on this list. I'll eventually do a separate video on science fiction standalones, but I'm just in this video talking about books that are part of series, and so we'll be talking about the series as a whole. And so also I'm talking about like science fiction as itself, original books, so I'm not including any media tie-in fiction. So Star Trek and Star Wars will not be on this list. It's just original science fiction series. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and start with my 2 honorable mentions. My first honorable mention series is Dave Wolverton's The Golden Queen. Dave Wolverton was one of my favorite authors. He not only wrote this series, he also wrote the fantasy series, The Rune Lords, which is my favorite fantasy series. But the Golden Queen trilogy is still very good. It's very kind of cheesy sci-fi. It's very fun. It's very light. It's a very, it feels like if Willow and Star Wars were mixed. He has this interesting way of writing. The bear companion character who talks in this book series is a fantastic character, and it's got really weird insectoid aliens, and it's a very fun trilogy to read. I thought the first and third books in particular were amazing. The second book wasn't great, but the first and third were amazing. So that's one of my honorable mentions. I'm also going to have another honorable mention on this list, Timothy Zahn's Icarus Saga. This series started with a standalone, The Icarus Hunt, and then years later, like 20 years later, he decided to revisit the series with the Icarus plot. And I started off, I'd read The Icarus Hunt, way after it had published, but I followed along as the Icarus plot and all of its sequels. There's 6 books in the main series plus Icarus Hunt. And this series is just delightful. It's puzzle box sci-fi. It's a lot of twists, a lot of turns, a lot of mystery to it. It's a lot of, you have to pay attention because it keeps twisting and changing so often. But Timothy Zahn just does an amazing job with this series, and it's a lot of fun. And so the Icarus Saga, if you like puzzle box storytelling, really, not just a mystery puzzle box where he keeps it's like a mystery within a mystery within a mystery, that type of thing. This book series is really great. So those are my honorable mentions. There are many other series I could talk about that I just kind of like, but I wanted to talk about my top ones, the ones that I really think are the best. And so from here on out, we're getting to my actual top 10. So if there's a science fiction series not on the list, either I haven't read a lot of it, or I haven't gotten to it yet, or I like it, it's just not a favorite. So let's go ahead with my number 10. My number 10 is going to be John Ringo's Live Free or Die. This is his Troy Rising series. It originally had 3 books that came out pretty much back to back to back, and then he stopped writing it, and then recently he took up and wrote the 4th book, which I believe is going to be published next year-ish sometime. But John Ringo, so far it's a 3-book series released, and I really enjoyed this. This is a series that is basically about alien contact with Earth, and one businessman is able to build this massive installation and is able to really protect Earth from the aliens that are attacking it. And it's kind of a great book that talks about how business can really have entrepreneurship and about how business can work with government to protect people. And it's a very fun science fiction series. The books 2 and 3 are much more into the military sci-fi space than the first book is, although the first book does get into the military sci-fi space a little bit, but it's a delightful series. So that's my number 10. My number 9 series is going to be a hard sci-fi series, and that's going to be Les Johnson's and Travis S. Taylor's Back to the Moon duology. They have, the first book is Back to the Moon, the second book is Onto the Asteroid. As an individual novel, Back to the Moon would be a maybe top 5 science fiction book for me. It's an amazing book. But Onto the Asteroids, not quite as strong. It's just a good book, not a great book. So that's why this series is ranked as number 9. But Back to the Moon is seriously a great science fiction read. It's very much like if you combined For All Mankind with Ben Bova type storytelling. If you combine Ben Bova and For All Mankind, that's what you get with Back to the Moon. And it's just... It had me on edge. It has great ideas about how to expand our space program. It has great ideas about what would happen if the Chinese or the Russians advance their space programs. And it's just got great peril like the Martian had in the Martians movie and book. So this series is great for hard science fiction. Very realistic, very much rooted in reality, but you don't feel like you're reading science. You feel like you're reading a thrilling novel. And so Les Johnson, Travis S. Taylor did a great job with this book series. All right, my number 8 is going to be an indie series, and that's going to be the Salvage Title series. This series it started as a trilogy, and then there's a spin-off series called The Coalition that has like 20 plus books. I haven't read The Coalition yet, but I have read the Salvage Title trilogy. And this trilogy is delightful, let me tell you. This is a very different writing style than I think I've ever read before. It just zooms through. There is no stopping with these books. Every chapter is advancing the plot at a ridiculous pace. It feels, and this sounds like a criticism, but it's actually an praise of it. It feels like a Cliff's Notes version of the story, in that you're just zooming along so fast, you're like, this can't possibly be the pace of the novel, because it's faster than any novel I've ever read. And that's because Kevin Steverson really tried to write a fast-paced book, and he did, and it just zooms by, and you just have a smile on your face. This is it's similar premise to one of the other book series I talked about, but the basic premise is that this group of guys, ex-military, they get together and form their own company, and they're able to buy this ship, the Salvage Title. And when they're doing that, there's an alien invasion of their planet area, their system, and so they decide to kind of launch the military isn't really able to protect enough, so they end up launching the protection. And then they grow their fleet and eventually take over their own system again, and the whole trilogy is about them fighting back against these alien invaders. And it's just a delightful series. So I cannot wait to go on to the Coalition, the spin-off series, because that should be a lot of fun. So that's my number 8. Let's go to my number 7. My number 7 favorite science fiction series is The Saga of the Seven Sons by Kevin J. Anderson. I don't love these covers for the books, but the books themselves are fantastic. Kevin J. Anderson gets space opera in a way that a lot of authors don't. The space opera in this series is so fun. There's so many planets, so many political storylines, so many aliens. It's very much Game of Thrones in space. And unlike George Martin, Kevin knows when to hone in and focus on certain things, and he knows when to expand. He very much has a couple of families that are the main character families in this, and I particularly love the villain in this series. Chairman Wenceslas is a terrific, terrific villain, and you have so many alien species that are so well realized. The action and adventure in this series is so fun, and even though each book is like 600 pages or 700 pages, they breeze through as a read. And I loved reading The Saga of the Seven Sons. That's my number 7. Ironic, The Saga of the Seven Sons is number 7. That was not on purpose. My number 6 is going to be another Timothy Zahn series, his Cobra series. This is a 9-book series, at least so far. I don't know if he's going to continue it. He wrote 3 trilogies, and I've read the first trilogy, and I have the second and third trilogies on my shelves to be read. And this trilogy is about augmented soldiers. These soldiers that are sent out to fight against these aliens, and they are augmented with all of these special abilities, special powers, special stuff to them. But these soldiers, after being augmented, the book's not about them fighting the bad guys. It's about what happens to them when they get home. They have to have lives, but now they're augmented with all these weapons and things. And so the book, at least the first trilogy, is really about seeing how these soldiers live their lives afterward, and see how they form families, and see how they work in politics. And it talks about veterans' affairs, and it talks about how politicians forget about veterans in some ways. And it's just a beautifully deep series, and it came out in the 1980s, and it looks, when you look at the covers, I love the cover, but it very much has that kind of classic sci-fi, cheesy sci-fi feel to it, and you would never know it was so deep with these themes about veterans. And so I loved this trilogy. Cannot wait to read the second two trilogies in this series. So that's my number 6 science fiction series. My number 5 is going to be one of the most famous military science fiction series of all time, and that's the Honor Harrington series by David Weber. The Honor Harrington series is a fantastic military science fiction. Honor Harrington, the character, is just superb. The characters around her, the way that David Weber is able to combine science fiction with the storytelling like Horatio Hornblower is just incredible. There's so many times where I'm like, that's just like Horatio Hornblower, but in science fiction, and it's so delightful. And there's a few books in this series that aren't as great, but you connect so well with the main characters, and you are just, even if you don't remember everything book to book, as soon as you pick up the next book, you get invested so easily. And I think that David Weber, he writes military sci-fi the way I like. I know a lot of people don't like it because he kind of was a trendsetter, and he set a lot of expectations for how military science fiction is written, but I like his style quite a bit, and that's why he's my number 5. We're getting up there among my favorites. My number 4 favorite series is the Calculating Stars or Lady Astronaut series by Mary Robinette Kowal. This is a hard science fiction series. It's very much like For All Mankind. I'm going to make that comparison because that is, in my opinion, the best science fiction TV show. But it is very much a hard science fiction series. There's 4 books out right now. I think that the first book and third book are particularly great. I think books 2 and 4 are good, but what this series does is it combines science fiction and like hard science fiction like space exploration. It combines alternate history, where basically at the beginning of the series, a meteor hits Washington, D.C., not only wipes out a lot of the government, but it also brings about a climate disaster that has to result in humanity having a limited time before they have to get off Earth. And so this series is about accelerating the space program in the 1950s, and it's about these women who have to join the program earlier than they did in real life, although there were still women in the space program, but they, astronauts, that is. And so these women, these people who usually would have had different jobs, become astronauts, and it's about them exploring. The first book is about going to the moon. The second book is about going to Mars. The third book is about establishing a base on the moon, and the fourth book is about establishing a base on Mars. And I have reviews for all these books, and they're just terrific hard science fiction. Anytime Mary Robinette releases a new book in this series, I'm excited to read it, and I cannot wait to read more. So that's my number 4. My number 3 favorite science fiction series is Timothy Zahn's Conquerors trilogy. This is my favorite Timothy Zahn series, although he's written a lot of standalones for science fiction that I love more. And my favorite series of his is the Conquerors trilogy of Conqueror's Pride, Conqueror's Heritage, Conqueror's Legacy. And this is a trilogy that I think Timothy Zahn took a bold swing, and a lot of people it would not have worked for, but for Tim it did. In this series, he writes from the human perspective with the Kavanaugh family and the first book. And there's this, something happens, and these aliens attack the human ships, and it launches this war. And so the Kavanaugh family, you see some of them are politicians, some of them are scientists, some of them are soldiers, some of them are pilots, all these different things. And one member of the Kavanaugh family is captured in the first book and taken to the aliens. The second book in this trilogy is written entirely from the alien's perspective. I think they have a human that's there for one moment, but it's almost entirely written from the alien's perspective. And it is fantastic, the switch that happens, and you have to like change your brain and the way you're reading it, and it works so well. The third book is mostly from the human's perspective, but also has the alien's perspective and kind of goes back and forth, and it combines the two storylines together, and it's just a bold swing of a trilogy. It is Timothy Zahn at his finest. He knows how to write exciting science fiction stories, which is why this is my number 3 favorite science fiction series. We're getting to the cream of the crop here, cream of the crop. My number 2 is the most famous science fiction series, I'm going to be honest, and that is the Dune saga. Yes, you have Frank Herbert, who wrote the original 6 books. I've read 4 of them. And then you also have Kevin J. Anderson and Brian Herbert, son of Frank Herbert, who wrote a lot, I think 20 at this point. And I've read, I think, about 10 or 11 of Kevin and Brian's books. And to be honest, I love the original Dune. I really enjoyed God Emperor of Dune, and then I've pretty much enjoyed all of the Kevin and Brian books. Dune Messiah, Children of Dune didn't necessarily work for me, but the other books are so strong. God Emperor of Dune and the Kevin and Brian books are so strong that this catapults up to being one of my favorite science fiction series. It's just such a rich universe. The world building in this series is amazing. The characters are great. The magic system, although it's not magic, but you know what I mean. The way the spice works, the way that the navigators work, the way that the different schools work, like the Bene Gesserit and the Mentats. All of that is just really fascinating. The politics in this series is one of the best for science fiction. So the Dune saga is just terrific. It's just a terrific science fiction series, and there's a reason that they keep trying to turn it into a franchise movie-wise, and the 2 new movies I loved, absolutely loved. I thought they were brilliant. Cannot wait for the next movie to come out soon. So I love the Dune saga, and that's why it's my number 2. If you know me at all on my channel, you've probably figured out what my number 1 is, because I talk about it the most, and I won't stop talking about it because it's so great. And that is the Grand Tour universe by Ben Bova. Ben Bova is a great science fiction writer. I've read several of his novels in the Grand Tour. He built the Grand Tour very differently than a lot of authors do series, where basically based off the planet that each book is, planet or base or whatever that each book is set on, it has a different starting point. You could start with Mars and the Mars trilogy. You could read the Jupiter duology. You could read the Saturn duology. You could start off with Mercury. You could start off with Venus. You could start off really anywhere, up among the planet and its books. And it's just a great, they all have great jumping off points. The first book that I would recommend everyone to start with is the best book in the series, and that's Mars. And I think it sets the tone well, it sets the expectations for what the series is going to be about, and also starts you off on a really high note. And the Mars series and the whole Grand Tour is how you blend hard science fiction with a little bit of the space opera stuff, a little bit of the softer science fiction stuff, and it also just tells really interesting characters, really interesting plot lines, and he is, with each series, able to bend the subgenre a little bit, and he's able to do something unique. Despite the fact that this series has 25 books in it, every series feels a little bit different than the last. It feels like it's adding something new. And I love so much of this series. And this series is just setting the standard for what I believe hard science fiction in particular can and should be. And so I particularly love the Mars series and hope and the whole Grand Tour universe, and hope more people find out about it. And I can't wait. I've read I think 9 books in the series so far, and I still have 15 or more books to read, so I'm really excited to continue on. So if you've read any of these book series that I've talked about, let me know in the comments section what you think of them, what your favorite is, and if there's ones I didn't talk about, I didn't have Hyperion because I've only read the first book. I didn't have Red Rising on this series, even though I did enjoy that. There's a lot of series I also haven't gotten to. Let me know what you think I should read or should be adding to the list. So until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.